meeting. I'll open with karakia, tue kurunga, tue kararu, tue karoto, tue kawaho, tue tātou te tangata ki te kaupapa o te hui nei, ki te kaupapa o te rangi nei, Māori ora ki a tātou katoa. Welcome along. Again, mixed meeting. Most of us are in the room. Councillor Greening online, Sue McLean online as well. So again, just remember microphones on if you are talking so that people online can hear. I'll move to apologies. I think we have none. Everyone is present, either in person or online. There is no public forum speakers. Declarations of interest. There are none. Late items. There are none. So we'll move to the confirmation of minutes from the meeting held on the 12th of March. Someone move they are a true and correct record of the meeting. Is there a mover? Move Councillor Mailing, seconded Councillor Ellis. Yeah, I know. Councillor Greening.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure I could speak to the minutes of the 19th of March.
Get to those in
same item.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, we'll come to that. So we'll just do the 12th of March first. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. So next up, we have the minutes of the extraordinary meeting on the 19th of March. From mover and seconder. Move Councillor Mailing. Is there a seconder? Councillor Butler. Councillor Greening.
Thank you. I just want to point out that we don't often get points of order raised in meetings, and there is an absence of any acknowledgement that standing orders were raised. A point of order was raised in relation to standing orders, and I think it should be acknowledged in the minutes. If someone was searching across our minutes, they'd probably be surprised that we don't have anyone challenging or raising points of order because we don't record them in the minutes. And I think it's important that we at least acknowledge that these matters were raised. So I've suggested some words, and I'd hope to add those words to the minutes.
Right, so I've had some advice. There's been an amount of correspondence between yourself and the governance staff over the content of minutes and the things that are recorded in them. And the recommendation that I've received is that where points of order are raised, accepted and agreed with, whatever the term is, upheld, that they will be recorded in the minutes. But where they're either not accepted as points of order and or declined, then they are not recorded in the minutes.
So I don't see where that rule is coming from, but because it's not in standing orders, but I think we should be acknowledging in the minutes that points of order were raised, whether they were agreed or not agreed. I can't see the rationale for not doing that.
I'm just repeating the advice I've received, which is as I've just outlined it. So if they are upheld, accepted firstly, in which case on the 19th they were not accepted, and subsequently they're not recorded. So, Councillor Morgan.
Just on this matter from a governance point of view, the minutes complete as confirmed as a correct record. Normally we would have a true and correct, or clarifying that the minutes records accurately the conversation. So I hear what the order is, but I'd perhaps ask management what is a correct record? How do you define that?
Robin.
Thanks. Yeah, it is a true and correct record is a record of the decisions that were made. There's a list in standing orders of what you are required to include in your minutes, and the confirmation is that it is a true record of what you are required to include in your minutes.
So, okay, thank you very much, because we're saying correct, and it's a qualifier, true, because it's correct from whose perspective. The way I look at minutes, it's what's said in the meeting, and that you're recording truly that conversation. So I'll leave it at that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a mover and seconder.
Mr. Mayor, can I just respond to the answer? Because a decision,
well,
we're supposed to record decisions, and you made a decision.
correct. There is a list of things. Was that circulated to everybody? If it wasn't, it could be over what our minutes contain, and the minutes contain all of the things they're required to contain. And as I've said, should a point of order be both accepted and upheld, it will be recorded in the minutes. However, this one was neither of those two things, so hence not recorded in the minutes.
But a decision was made.
I made a ruling from the chair, different than a decision of council. So it's been moved and seconded. I'll put the resolution.
Can I move an amendment then?
Robin.
Through the chair, the confirmation of minutes is not actually you are. That is what you are doing. There's no further discussion on the minutes apart from accuracy. I take your point that you feel that a decision was made with regards to this. That was a procedural decision. Across councils, there are a variety of ways that points of order are recorded or not recorded. Many councils don't record them at all. Majority of councils that do record them in this way, is that there is a record of points of order that are upheld. And typically the way you would record that is that a point of order was raised regarding something and upheld. That is all that is required. It is not actually required to be in the minutes. It's a matter of practice, and it's a matter of best practice that
I would have thought
a decision that was.
Mark, thank you. So you've moved an amendment. What is it?
The words that I gave to TDC governance, the addition of the words raising the point of a standing order.
So literally you can't move an amendment. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, they're either accurate or you can amend them, or you can accept amended minutes. Yeah.
So how do you accept amended minutes if you can't make an amendment?
Just wait a second.
And you can do that by recording in these minutes. There are changes that you have made. Okay. If you choose to add some changes to the minutes, then you can approve amended minutes. But
I'm confused.
Yeah.
How do you amend the minutes if you want to accept amended minutes?
You record it in these minutes, not in the resolution. You record how you're going to change them. So if you want some words changed, give them to us, we'll sort it.
Yes, so I've given you some words.
We are recommending not to.
Yes, so I've moved it. Do I have a seconder?
If you just let me sort this out. Thank you, Councillor Graining. I know what you're trying to do or achieve. Yep. So can you explain to me?
What we've said and what you said to him is that these minutes we're not recording any.
Yes, that's right.
And Councillor Graining is saying he wants them done.
Yep.
But it's your role. It's your decision whether you want to change the minutes or not.
So it's my decision.
It is your decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, that's easy then. So the advice I've received, Councillor Graining, is it's my decision whether or not to accept any alteration to the minutes. The minutes have been moved and seconded in the format that they are currently in front of the meeting. And so I'm not inclined to accept your amendments based on the advice I received and the correspondence you received from governance. So I will now move to put the resolution that's been moved and seconded. So all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against?
Against.
Carried. Do you want it noted, your opposition? And Councillor Greening's noted.
Can it be explained my position is because the standing orders weren't recorded in the minutes?
No, we'll just record your vote against. Right, so now we'll move on with the substantive, the confidential minutes of the 12th of March meeting. Move, Councillor Mailing, seconded. Deputy Mayor Murray, all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. We'll now move on with the main item for the meeting, which is the annual plan consultation document. So I will come over to Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Morena, kia ora koutou. Tasman's 10-year plan 2024 to 34 planned a rates revenue increase of 5.2% excluding growth for year 3, 2026-27. In the 2 years since adopting the 10-year plan, there have been some substantial upward cost pressures that continue to affect the cost of business operations and service delivery. Last year's annual plan signalled a 7.2% rates increase for 2026-27, and we saw a challenge to this figure in November when a forecast rise of 11.2% was identified. In response, we've worked with you to review our work programme and budgets to minimise the cost to ratepayers. These changes have resulted in a proposed average rates revenue increase of 9.9% excluding growth. This increase includes 2.3% for the recovery costs of the 2025 weather events, 5.3% for 3 waters cost increases, and 2.3% for cost increases for the rest of council business. This rates increase would be consistent with the government's proposed rates cap. At your 19th of March meeting, you agreed to propose budget changes and to consult on the proposed annual plan 2026-27 because the changes from the 10-year plan are significant and material. I've learnt my lesson as well. Don't prepare a well-crafted report and then go on holiday for 2 weeks. We have prepared an annual plan consultation document for your approval today. Yesterday, you were provided with an updated copy of the consultation document and a change table explaining those amendments. These included minor edits and corrections, amendments to improve the clarity or readability of the document, and changes in response to your feedback on the prior version provided last Friday. The updated version has been tabled for the meeting today and it will be attached to the minutes. It presents how we've calculated the rates revenue increase and how we plan to fund our work. It outlines the key challenges to council that we're currently facing, and we're inviting community feedback on their preferred option for a new 2025 weather events recovery rate and the proposed budget movements, including operating budgets, the capital program, funding depreciation for roading, and council's fees and charges. As part of the capital program, we have highlighted the 3 community facilities projects and invite feedback on progressing or pausing these projects. It also signals that work has started on the next 10-year plan and invites the community to share their aspirations for Tasman future and where the council should focus its efforts at Let's Talk Tasman. If you adopt the consultation document today, the consultation period will start today and it will run until Sunday the 3rd of May. The SHAPE page will go live later today once the consultation document and supporting material are finalised. The annual plan consultation will be publicised in the next newsline and we promoted it in this week's newsline as coming up. There'll be hard copies of the consultation document available at our super centres and libraries, and people can also provide feedback via the SHAPE Tasman page. We will directly contact iwi and hard copies will be provided to the community boards, community associations and yourselves to pass on to any interested parties. Hearings and deliberations meetings will be held in May before the annual plan is finalised for your adoption on the 26th of June. We've got the annual plan team here today to answer any of your questions and we're happy to take those now.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, it's open for any questions around clarification of anything contained. And then I will move from the chair once that has been done. So questions of clarification in relation to what has been circulated. I'd just like to highlight, thank you all those who did submit suggestions, queries, changes and alterations via email since the previous meeting and before today to enable staff to reflect at least some of those, or many of those actually, and the changes that have been made to the consultation document. So really appreciate that communication rather than just trying to raise them all today. So that's been very helpful. Thank you. Councillor Greening.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for folding in the dollar figures into the documents so people can actually see the figures that they can challenge. It would be more useful as well if a table was provided bringing all these figures together. We've presented them in both, I think, financial reports recently through the workshop. So I think a table would be very useful. Whether that is provided by link, because I know there's some links to some documents, I think that should be added. I do note that I think in one of the areas which for some reason doesn't have any dollar figures, and I'm here looking at page 14 of the updated operating budget movements, some great detail about maintenance, general operating costs. But then when we get to employee benefits, there's no mention of any figures whatsoever. So either we put them in there or we put them in a table, but people need to know where the numbers are going and what they're for. So we can get some informed feedback as to where they want to trade things off or shift things around. And in that regard, I think it would also be useful to maybe add a table of the capital program for that financial year. So they also, when they're providing feedback, might give us feedback on, actually, we'd like you to defer this project or shift this project into the following year. That would certainly help people trying to provide feedback on these numbers, which I don't think at this stage is that user-friendly in the current document, but I think tables and links to them would be.
Okay, thank you. So a couple of things. One is a link and or through to the capital program. So start with that.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, could you please clarify what you mean in terms of a table of bringing the figures together? Which figures are you referring to?
So the changes that are proposed are spread out through several headings. And during the workshops, we had some quite succinct tables of this is what we are adding in terms of increases and whereas this is the line that it's going to. And I think we had some of that in a financial report as well in an earlier meeting. So having a table where people can just see the numbers, what's been added, where it's going, and then the total number that we're trying to we're looking for 15 million of additional revenue above what was previously planned. So where is that landing in a succinct table so they can see it and detailed, because as I pointed out, some of the items you've listed in your document don't have any numbers against them. So that would be really useful. And then on the capital side, again, a table that shows the capital program, because last week we had some movement in our capital spending. So it would be useful to see an update. We've had some carry forwards. So it'd be interesting to see those in there as well for that financial period, and also give the opportunity for people to give feedback on whether they want some of this capital program to continue.
Right, thank you. So both of those things I assume are reasonably possible. So I'm getting thumbs up. Good as gold. And I've talked to acting CEO Steve. Yeah, Steve. So the employee benefits, we should be able to put a number in there, but an overall number combining a number of those things as there is in the other tables. So those things will all be done, Councillor Greening. Is there anything further in terms of specific questions? Councillor Neubauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think I commented on that in advance. If we want to get the most out of this consultation, I think we need to be as succinct as we can and really home in on the questions that we need answers to. And if I followed the debate in the chamber correctly, then one of the most hotly debated topics was about the rating base for our weather event recovery fee. In this consultation document, if I read this correctly, there's still 4 different options highlighted. 2 of those are for an ongoing rate, which I don't know whether there was actually an awful lot of support for that in the chamber. So I wonder whether that should be, taking as much space in the document as it should, or whether we could actually just focus on the 2 options that were really debated, which is the uniform charge and the CV value, and then make that a bit clearer. Like when we look at the example properties, they basically show one option at the moment, which is arguably our preferred option, I understand. But if we only had two options there, it'd be very easy to put in brackets to say, and this is what it means for CV value. And then it's really easy for people to comment on.
So in terms of the ease of adding a bracket figure into the residential property, I'm looking to either Matt or Alan, I guess, or Amy.
Thank you, through the Mayor. So we have actually referred to where that information can be found. So where they can, it's quite messy to add further tables, and it does obviously change per property for the capital value.
Absolutely. No, I totally understand that. We have the figures, so we have them there. Why not display them? And for ease of, to get people to look at the right things, why don't we get rid of the ongoing ones? And that actually makes the whole document a bit easier. So you only have two options primarily here, and then of course people can comment on all of the options, but these are the most likely ones that we need feedback on.
Alan.
So I think at both workshops, and I'll need to check, but I think in the report that we looked at on the 19th, we talked about including all four options in the consultation document. So I've just followed through on what was previously communicated to you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Woods.
Thank you, through the chair. The forecast debt that was 306 million now going to 320 million. A lot of the reasons for the increase in debt seem to be covered off in the rationale to go from 5.1% up to 9.9%. I struggle to join the dots between the debt increase over the projected debt and what we are going to in terms of the rates and the justification for the rates. So clearly there's about a $14 million differential there, which, can someone just point me to where that's identified, the reason for that jump in the debt?
And through you, Mr. Mayor, the 306 that you're quoting is the LTP debt as per the 2026-27 LTP. So essentially, there's been a few years since. So the $14 million, I know there have been cost pressures in terms of projects that have contributed to that. I could certainly provide detail about what's driven that 14 million. I don't have it at hand at the moment, but there's a number of things that have occurred. One of which is around the recovery amount, if you like. So essentially, we've got $14.6 million of additional costs that we obviously didn't know about 3 years ago. We're only looking to pay back 1 year of that, with the other 12 million, essentially, because the amount I think is about $2.5 million that we're paying annually over 5 years. So straight away, you have $12 million of extra debt over and above what we expected. So that is the predominant reason for the increase. But undoubtedly, there's been a few other movements in terms of just changes in the capital program that have also driven it. But without a doubt, that the emergency event has driven it predominantly.
Councillor Woods.
Thank you. So can we expect that debt to be removed with the recovery levy?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we can, but after 5 years. So essentially, what's being consulted on is a 5-year payback period. So that debt of 14, with the additional debt of $14.6 million, will be paid back after 5 years. So that's essentially what will occur, which is obviously a more aggressive. Well, we did discuss extending that period to a longer years, pay it back over 10 years, etc., 7 years, whatever it might be. But we've stuck with 5 years at the moment. So after 5 years, we would have paid back that additional emergency event expenditure debt that we're carrying now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Morgan.
I've got two questions just in this discussion. We've accrued, I think, 23 million in revenue for this year so far, and a portion of that's covering those costs. And as you say, there's the 14 something million that we have to raise. Where I'm confused is, we've approved the budget to go to consultation. Is it really around capital and the fact that we've got a budget that effectively is not achievable in capital expenditure, and we've demonstrated that over time. So if we're not going to spend the 95 million in the budget, the issue is whether that's part funded, the tail end, whether it be DC subsidies or the likes, because most of it will be debt if we spent it. So you were talking about the storm debt, the storm costs. If you complete your plan, you pretty sure the debt's not going to be higher. Knowing I'm thinking you won't. I'd like to think you can.
Do you want to just briefly explain the capital work program, the total amount predicted, and the way that we mitigate, offset, so we don't rate to collect all of that, because we recognise in the system that we actually won't get it all. Therefore, we don't aim to collect all of the money.
I understand that.
Okay.
I'm clear on what makes up the capital spend, but when you don't spend it, the tail of it is debt. So if you do spend it, you're factored into the business case that the debt that covers that capital spend.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly the forecast capital spend for this financial year is a key component to what drives the 26-27 rate position and indeed debt position. So while it's 95 million, I believe we've got something more akin to $78 million in what's contributing to the annual plan that you're seeing in the consultation document. If we don't, if we were to spend more than that, the 78 million, there would be an issue, but it's highly unlikely given the run rate for 8 months that we've got. And that's something you'll see next week again on the 7th of April in terms of our monthly financial report.
So our biggest risk is actually spending that. So if we have a program of 95, if we spend the 78, everything works as is contained in the consultation document. If for some miraculous reason we progress faster and deliver more of the 95 than 78, then there is an issue over more debt. If we don't do more than 78 or whatever the number is, actually there is no extra debt because we actually haven't spent the money.
Yeah, I'm clear on that, but it's the carryover aspect. If we spent it in the year we're talking about, have we accounted for that in debt?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly there is the ability to carry over. So at the moment, we've assumed that we're going to spend 78 million, and then we've assumed a higher amount again in the capital plan. If at year end we don't spend 78 million and need to carry over some of that, so be it. We carry it over with the expectation that other money from 26-27 will be pushed out, because we can't suddenly spend 80 million plus another 15 million or whatever it might be. Similar to this year, the carryover, I think the capital program this year was 80 million. It went up to 95 million as a result of carryovers. By rights, we should have actually been pushing some of that 95 million out further, because we historically, at least, are not able to deliver it.
And through the chair, just to be clear, next week we're having a conversation around capital delivery capex caps to try and address this longer term.
Yep, 100%. So I just for noting, I have Councillor Kinnemont followed by Councillor McNamara and then Councillor Norbow.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, a simple question, really. Debt affordable benchmark, net debt to operating revenue, you've got it at 225%. I'm sure it used to be 160%. Could you just...
Through the chair, whereabouts are we looking, Councillor?
And one of the supplements, just under the benchmarks for debt affordability, page 25 of 203.
Oh, okay.
It's in there. I just see this as an accounting type, accuracy type thing. I think it should be 160, You got 225 there.
So
Not
through
sure.
the mayor, I would need to have a look at the exact page. I think it's the essential benchmarks that we're obligated to put in as part of the LGFA, Local Government Act regulation. The 160% is our own internal cap, if you like. There is a one that is prescribed by the LGFA. I need to quickly look at it, but that's essentially why it's higher again. Like the essential benchmarks is across the country. So the benchmarking is to enable people to look at councils across the country. So the 160% is our own internal limit, and therefore not sort of part of that the comparative that those particular graphs are trying to achieve. I'll happily have a quick chat to you afterwards just to pull the page out that you're looking at.
Could you just, okay. I'm just thinking if it is like that, all the other benchmarks are here, but
Yes.
we've got our own separate one for that at 160. I think you need to have a note down here to say
To that effect.
something along that effect.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'll have a look. From memory, I think there might be two graphs. That one's our internal, one's the external one, but I can have a quick look.
Yep. Cool. Thank you. Councillor McNamara.
Just going back to the Capital Works program thing, I'm just wondering the risk. So we have 95 programs. We're expecting to spend 78, sorry. Given the current climate, the chances of these programs overrunning is significant. Does that mean that even though we don't deliver the amount of work, we can still deliver the cost of the work to 95?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I no doubt what is happening in terms of the world economy, etc., will be putting pressure on the prices. That's in the next 3 months, though. So I would be surprised if the increase in price translate to us being able to spend $40 or $50 million in 3 months in terms of our capital program to achieve that 95 million.
Yeah, I was hoping we weren't going to spend the whole lot, but I was just wondering.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that as we work through the tender procurement process, if tenders start to say, for example, they're consistently 30% above budget, there will be a conversation with the council to say you've got two options. Either we're going to exceed the 78 million expenditure, that's going to put you in a deficit position for the subsequent year, or alternatively, we're going to have to pull back on that capital works program. So again, that's what I'd anticipate if those prices start to come through and demonstrate that, there will be another conversation for the council to have.
Thank you. I was just getting that clarified.
Absolutely, in the current environment, that is a risk. That even our current 78 million estimate and the capital projects that make it up, if we completed them all, may cost us more than the $78 million estimate. Okay, thank you. Good question. Timo. Councillor
Tim. Sorry, I'm not sure if I got an answer here. My question was whether we could include a figure in the rates in the rating example properties for what the values would be if the weather event recovery rate was charged on capital value. I know that we have all those figures, so it's, I thought, just a matter of including those.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So just to clarify, you're asking on the representative properties that are already shown, if we can add the indicative CV impact for that option.
Yes.
Our preference would be to continue to have the words we have that point them to the analysis document, where it shows not just the CV value, but all the options against the representative properties. But that's your decision.
Yeah, I guess the key thing is how much you include in the consultation document. So the information is available. It would just add, because you'd effectively run 3 more sets of tables, right? Rather than try and complicate the current table with brackets and stuff, you would effectively run. So this would contain another however many sets of representative properties outlining the impact of the options.
Same properties, and I would only include 2 options. The 2 options that were discussed in the chamber, really.
So effectively, I mean, again, I know you say it was hotly debated. My recollection was it was actually one of the more clearer cut decisions that we had was the preference for the fixed rate, and that is what the staff have reflected. So
6 to 8, that's close. I just think it's clearer and more accessible if you direct people to look into a sub table. Most people you'll have lost at that point, and they won't actually follow that through.
Amy, Alan,
yeah. So again, through you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, as well as whether we should do it, there's a question of can we do it in the time frame to get this consultation started. If not, everyone's on holiday for the next 4 days, so it's going to be into next week before we even can get this stuff.
I think that's probably as good an answer as we're going to get. So effectively, this document either has to be printed today, or the consultation starts. And it's actually a relatively short. 3rd of May. We've already burned 2 weeks nearly from the original decision. So I guess my preference is to stick with what we've got, simply because the practicalities of doing anything other than minor changes is going to be too hard. Thank you, Councillor Butler.
Sorry, just to follow on from that, and I'm not saying that the concept is not a good one, but that was an amendment was put and it was lost. So I don't see why that would then be included in the consultation document.
I think in terms of pragmatic, so I think the pragmatic situation we find ourselves in is probably not going to be possible, even if
we did vote against.
We did have this conversation, and we'll have it again, no doubt, post the consultation when we get the feedback from the community, which is hopefully where we get to relatively soon, and then they can start providing us their feedback, which I'm sure the one thing we all agree on is we want to get the community's feedback on the range of proposals that we're putting out. All right, if there are no further questions, I'll move the resolution from the chair and look for a seconder, and noting the alterations that staff have undertaken to include that were suggested by Councillor Greening around a couple of those tables, and in the addition of the figure under employee benefits. So with those changes, I will move. Is there a seconder? Seconded, Councillor McNamara. I'll look to put the resolution. All those in favour, please say. Well, you can. No, I'm sorry. Okay, no, you can now. Okay, you can now have comments.
Thank you very much. Yeah, look, I'm entirely unhappy to second it, but it's a document that we have to get out there to get the feedback, as you suggest. So, in that way, I will second it, and of course be voting for it. However, I'm disappointed that we're going out with very little change, given a significant dam overrun, given a significant weather event, and now given that we're in the middle of the best part of a world war. So I think conditions are very different to what they were when the long-term plan was put together, and our ability to react to that is disappointing. It's also disappointing to be told that we'd trimmed our budgets to the bones, and then we're advertising that we're putting on 2 new bus runs. It's going to cost $40,000, but don't worry, it's within existing budgets, which suggests, oh, there's at least one budget with a little bit of fat in it. So I'm hoping that the residents give us some good feedback, and I'll look forward to a rather challenging conversation when we go to implement it.
Thank you, Councillor McNamara. Other comments in relation to the resolution, Councillor Neubauer?
I think in the light of the currently exploding fuel costs, some residents will be very happy about the extra bus runs, but that's beside the point. I just wanted to raise that I actually, I appreciate that we're running out of time to make those amendments that I've been asking for. I have been asking for those early on, so I'm a little bit surprised that it was possible to do.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? Councillor Mayling?
Just quickly, look, I'm happy with the amendments staff have put in.
what I do like is that we clearly outline the three components of the rates rise, and I found that very easy to follow, so you can break them down into it. And if you look at the three waters, a good example is a broken pipe last night in Gladstone Road that caused significant disruption. We have to maintain our infrastructure. We are having problems with it. And if you look at three waters going forward, I saw what Wellington was going to be in a few years' time, and that looks horrendous. So this is just an example of what councils throughout this country are going to face when you talk about infrastructure, and it's a reality. So what I like is the way it is clearly explained, and there are clear choices. But if you want services, you have to pay for them. Simple as that.
Thank you, Councillor Mailing. Anything further? If not, I'll look to put the result. I'll just look. Whenever we get to this stage in the thing, it is nice if the council supports going out for consultation. And voting for it doesn't mean you agree. Just as Councillor McNamara, I get very succinctly outlined, agreeing to go out to consultation doesn't mean you agree with everything that's contained in it. In fact, you may strongly disagree with certain parts of it. The key decision on what's finally contained in it will be post-consultation. So it is very clearly outlined in my view that the key choices that people have around some of those key things, the community view, I suspect, will be mixed, as it always is when we go out for consultation. I think it highlights the massive impact of three waters. And as you're looking around the country, it doesn't really seem to matter whether people have gone with a CCO, an in-house business unit, joint or separate. Everyone is facing massive cost escalations in both capital investment and debt, and in the subsequent costs of those services, and we will be no different. And if you look at the representative properties, there's a very clear distinction between those connected to those three services and those who are not. And I think, if nothing else, this annual plan round will highlight to people that as we go through the LTP, that is likely to be a very similar conversation, albeit for a longer period. So, look, I really appreciate we've been through a couple of workshops, a couple of decision-making processes. We are slightly behind in terms of time for the community to give us their feedback. If we get out there today and hopefully then through the course of both meetings, submissions, hearings, and then final decisions, I'm not pretending they're going to be easy. I suspect they're going to be at least as challenging as the previous two conversations. But it'd be nice to get that feedback directly. So I will now look to put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to staff for all the work and the scramble that's been undertaken, and responding to a number of the queries that came in online before. Yep. So we've got the next. I'm getting to the next item. So yeah, really important that we've got that done. Right. So the schedule of fees and charges. Emily, welcome. Thanks, Matt and team. Emily, over to you.
Good to go to it. All right. So now we're moving on to adopting the statement of proposal for the schedule of fees and charges 26-27 for consultation alongside the annual plan 26-27. So this report seeks approval to consult with the community, and feedback will be analysed and summarised and presented to you in May. I won't go into my report too much because we've just discussed the annual plan, but my report includes a few clarifications that were asked by elected members in February. And then there have been a few changes made to the statement of proposal, which include, we now have a proposed rubbish bag fee for small and large bags. And then following elected members' direction, staff analysed the property file fee, which you will have seen an analysis document on the 19th of March, and I've included that option 1 into the proposal. And then we've included parking fees for Harkness, Petrie, Paps and Warren car parks, which were adopted by elected members during the annual plan 25-26, but we're not in the schedule and have been included now. Happy to take questions.
Yep, thank you. Open for questions and or moving and seconding. Again, for the purposes of consultation, it is the proposal. Happy to move Councillor Ellis. Is there a seconder? Second, Councillor Neubauer.
So just to note for resolution 2, those fees were attached in the updated attachment 2 for waste fees, which I can tell you right now if you'd like to.
Yep.
Sorry. So $7.20 for a small bag and $8 for the large bags.
And given the bags are made of plastic, one can imagine they're going to be more expensive next time we have this conversation. Right, those figures included. It's open for comments or feedback. Councillor McNamara.
So just in terms of our rubbish levy, a significant chunk of that's made up of what the councils require from the new landfill, whatever it is, used to be a business unit, joint committee. I'm just wondering at which point we can have a discussion around how much we require as a council to be added over and above the cost of running the landfill and running the system and government levies.
So Richard.
We've already asked for this year for a levy to cover our costs, and that was asked for back in November, December. Our next opportunity is for the next business plan that starts 1st of July 2027. Now, can I just preface that if during the consultation process we're in a situation where we want to request further levy, there's obviously consequences of that and probably may trigger another consultation because the landfill charges will probably have to go up again. So I know there are delegated authorities for chief executives to change fees in the landfill space, but that's just letting you know that if you did want to change what we've already asked for, which has already been allowed for in the annual plan, that's the process.
To clarify, the levy that we collect, it's the same for both councils.
Correct.
The costs for each council can't be exactly the same.
The way it's set up under the Commerce Commission requirements and setting up the landfill so that we didn't end up price gouging on both councils, is that both councils put in what they require, and the business unit then, or the joint committee then says, right, well, we have to take the highest one. So the council that benefits gets more than they asked for, obviously reduces their costs for the recycling and waste minimisation.
So the next time to have this is really as part of the long-term plan, and I know that certainly the Nelson City have there have been suggestions over time that the current structure and the way the levy works and the way it's returned, and then what we ultimately use that for, should be the subject of a further conversation. And I'm expecting that will be quite a key card, actually, because it's quite a significant cost to people, albeit not in rates through fees and charges, also rates, but particularly fees and charges will be as part of the long-term plan.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, the other thing we've commented several times is because of the charges, the volume of waste is dropping down, so the income is reducing, and so we end up in a situation where it's just compounding. So council might have to, as part of the LTP, look at other ways it funds recycling, waste minimisation, and solid waste services.
Okay, all right, thank you. But yeah, it is quite a key component of the mix, particularly of fees and charges. Councillor Morgan and then Councillor Greening.
I'm just picking up on the comments about the landfill. My understanding is that it'll be in our best interest to stay on that site before we migrate to Eves Valley because of the capital costs to develop and the transport costs and all the rest of it. So does this levy, recognising that there's an increase in falling revenue potentially on the landfill site, is that a break-even budget or are we further subsidising? For
do you want to answer how the budget works? I mean, it is actually quite complicated between the joint landfill business unit and the levy process, and then how fees and charges in both councils utilise it slightly differently in terms of the revenue that they receive back. So I'm not sure we can get a very precise answer right now.
Come back to you on how that whole thing works, and get David to outline it. But essentially, the levy that we get from the landfill operation has got to fund our waste minimisation activities.
Yeah.
We have a specific curbside rate for the recycling collection, but the rest of it, like running the recycling central, that's funded from those levies. But I need to get David to probably put it all documented for you to see where the money flows and where we get it from and everything, because it is quite complicated.
It is designed to cover the cost, though. So if you could argue break even, it is designed to cover the cost of delivering.
Correct. We're not clear on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Councillor Greening.
No, thanks. So just a quick question of clarification. Overall, the average increase, is 7% across these increases. Is that correct?
Emily? Matt?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, it's not 7% on average. It's 7% on perhaps the majority, but there's things like solid waste that we've just discussed that it's not 7%. So there are specific ones that go up because of other factors. So no, not 7% necessarily.
To clarify, there are fees that are below that 7% as well. So all the staff charges are moving by 3.5, and our environmental charges that are based on staff time are moving by 3.5. So it varies depending on what's appropriate for the charge and funding the service.
Okay. So to put this into an average then, how much more income are we getting from this that we didn't have before? And then how much of that increase is a percentage?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I couldn't put a figure on it now, and nor I assume the percentage is a percentage of the total fees and charges. Again, I would need to look at that. I don't have those figures at hand.
Right. So it sounds like it's higher than 7%.
Sorry, it sounds like it's higher than 7%. Was that the question?
It sounds that was.
No, it could be lower. It could be higher. I wouldn't know. I'm not sure where.
Okay.
Through the chair, just to add, also we have introduced new fees that add to the baseline as well. So it won't be as simple as every charge. The total revenue equals an average increase of 6.9% or whatever, because there's additional charges like the property one you're talking about. So yeah, it's a bit harder to calculate than it might seem, but we can come back with the overall revenue figure later, perhaps.
Yep.
Okay. So I don't know if it's been seconded, so I'd like to move a motion.
It has been moved and seconded.
Oh, who was seconding it? I didn't hear who seconded it.
Yeah. Councillor Neubauer seconded it.
Oh, Neubauer seconded it. Okay. So I will probably then forewarn an amendment along the lines of at least specifying that the increase on existing charges should be no greater than 3%, and accommodating new charges, but that existing increases should only be 3%. I do want to ask,
to be honest, Councillor Grant, at this point in the process, given all this has to go out tomorrow, like to do that would then impact on the rates decision we've just made. Like you literally cannot move an amendment at this point in the process. Once we get the feedback from the community, then when we reconsider both the annual plan and the schedule of fees and charges, if the council's desire is to lower the fees and charges, either offset that against the rates or find some other way of funding it and or change the service delivery model, that's a conversation we can have. But
well, a decision hasn't been made yet.
We just don't pragmatically have the ability to make such a substantial change because of the flow-on effects of changing the fees and charges, which are integrally related to the rates figure we've just done, yes. To accept an amendment of that magnitude at this point.
We have passed the general rates. We hadn't passed the fees and charges. This is happening today.
Correct.
Right. So we get the opportunity to agree or disagree on what is proposed, which is, I think roughly we were talking 7%, but numbers are clearly moving. I am suggesting, as I said before in the general rates discussion, and it could be easily done just by adjusting all your charges, existing ones, not new ones, by 3%. That's pretty easy to do in a table. So I don't see it as being arduous. And I'm happy to change the wording to enable that, but I'm forewarning that.
Thank you. Matt,
and
do you also want to comment, or Matt or Emily, on the process of changing the figure?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. The process of changing it to 7% will impact the amount of not general rates, total rates. So the rates obviously affect targeted and general, and terms of fees and charges affect both. So the 9.9% that we just agreed is set on the fact that we're getting revenue associated with the 7% charges on certain amounts. Trying to move everything by 7% when I've just stated that back to 3 rather, when there are clearly certain activities, i.e. solid waste, that are not at 7%. So it's not as simple as that. I can't just do it quickly and it will affect everything.
I appreciate that, but because we have separated them out as we have done, I have the ability to now do that, as difficult as it might be.
Just to stress again, we would. Sorry.
Right. So if you're foreshadowing an alternative resolution, if the current resolution is lost, that's fine. I'm happy to accept that. I just can't accept an amendment to the resolution.
Yeah, because my amendment will be counted to your probably.
Correct. Yeah,
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
White dogs, black, yeah. Whatever arbitrary decision is made. Can I just dig a bit deeper then into some of the numbers that are already in here, and particularly the 3.5%. So my question is, why are we adjusting for staff time at 3.5%? Is this driven by a PSA arrangement or some other arrangement that requires the lifting of wages?
Matt.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the 3.5%, we use local government CPI to increase all costs on an annual basis. So the driver of that increase is around that. Equally, though, there are some costs. The other inflators, be it operating costs, also contribute to that sort of that increase as well.
So I think that it is not the 3.5 figure is effectively the inflation adjustment, and most of them we have chosen to go out and consult on increasing by more than the inflation adjustment for a range of different reasons, and some we have just stayed with the 3.5%. But so for clarity, the 3.5% is effectively the inflation number, and that is not staff salaries specifically, although it may include that. It's also overheads, insurance, all the other costs of running the organisation that are reflected in the staff charge out rate. So that's the basis for the 3.5%.
So the explanation provided is that this is mainly driven adjusting for staff time. And I don't see the staff time being an increased cost unless our PSA agreement is increasing wages by 3.5, or we have other arrangements that are driving that. And if it isn't, then the increases should come down, because staff time is fixed at a particular cost unless that cost is increasing.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, sorry. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Now I've lost my train of thought. The 3.5% increase in terms of staff charge out rates is the staff charge out rates. So it's when people come in and actually use our staff, and it's only in specific areas. A lot of the staff time is built into other charges, so it's not specific. So there's I don't off the top of my head know how many times we actually use that staff charge out rate. It's not as used as much as all the other charge out rates that we actually have, the fees and charges.
Yeah, so I mean, generally, I don't believe the inflation rate is 3.5%, and I don't believe actually our inflated costs are actually 3.5%. I don't think wages have gone up that much, and costs that are driving this, I don't.
So just for clarity, Councillor Granning, we are looking forward to a year starting on the 1st of July And if you're reading the tea leaves at the moment, the inflation is quite likely to be at least 3.5%. Central government, the Reserve Bank, I mean, everyone is indicating that regardless of whether the current situation in the Middle East changes tomorrow, that we have some baked in inflation numbers, and everything I'm hearing around the cost of products, the cost of services, the cost of diesel, the cost of transportation, we will be very fortunate if it's as low as 3.5% over the 12 months. Over the 12 months, Councillor Greening, over the 12 months we are discussing, which is not a backwards looking conversation.
Yes, exactly.
It's a forward looking one.
Absolutely. And Reserve Bank will increase interest rates to bring inflation down. It's a
Indeed they will.
Right. So our debt is, our debt increases as we're currently confronted with.
So Councillor Greening, we've just had a debate about rates and debt, and we've passed that
you've
resolution.
raised the issue. I'm just responding to you.
We're focused on fees and charges, and you asked the question about the basis on which the 3.5 has been included, and you've received the answer to it. I know you don't agree with it, but that is the answer.
Yeah, we're inflation adjusting when actually it's not really needed to be inflation adjusted. My other question is, in relation to charges, do we charge for investigations? Or do we just charge for inspections? I know we charge for building inspections. Someone puts in a consent and we go and inspect and we charge for it. But when we start to investigate, do we charge for that as well? Because I can't see any investigation charges in here.
When we investigate what specifically?
So let's say we think there might be a breach of some consent and we go off and investigate it, and then we issue the person after the investigation a bill for staff time.
Okay, so let's use, we could use tiny homes. So for example, we're often out investigating. Are you suggesting we should be charging the people we're investigating? Or who are we charging for the investigation? I'm unclear.
So I think we are charging people for investigations we have undertaken. They haven't asked for anything. So it's an unsolicited inspection.
No, my question, Councillor Greening, is we have a complainant, ratepayer X, and they complain about complainant, ratepayer Y. Who are we sending the bill to? The person who complained, the person complained against, and are we sending it regardless of whether they're found to be breaching something or not? As far as I'm aware, we don't charge people for investigations.
Yes, that's what I thought.
If they're found to have breached some rule or regulation, they may receive an abatement notice, and that may go through a process where costs are ultimately recovered. But as far as I'm aware, we don't charge people for
investigations.
Right.
Can I just raise the matter that I think we are?
Through the chair, look, can we come back to you on that, because we don't have anyone in the room who can give a comprehensive answer.
I'm fine. You can come back.
But it's great that we're not. The clarity is that we're not. I just want to make that quite clear, that we shouldn't be doing it.
My understanding is we don't charge people specifically for investigations.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Subsequently, we may recover costs down the track. There may be a cost recovery process that people are found to have breached something, and there is certainly a cost of mitigating or fixing whatever it is they may have been found to breach. But as far as I'm aware, we don't have a process of charging people while we're considering whether or not, because we don't even know when we start whether they've broken any particular rule.
Through the chair, I can part answer this question. If someone is complaining about a resource consent that has been breached, we are not going to be charging the complainant for that time, the applicant for that time, if it's found to be complying. But there are fees and charges in here for permitted activity charging as well. That's come through in that new RMA as well.
So they're charging for permitted activities, which personally I don't agree with, which we considered as part of the initial draft of fees and charges, which staff suggested bringing in anticipation of the changes to the RMA that enable the recovery of costs for monitoring permitted activities, is one of the new fees and charges, is it not?
Yes, correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So if Councillor Green is referring to that, we had that debate, and it's been included based on the conversation in the previous meeting around fees and charges.
Yeah.
Like I say, not what I agree with, but such is life. We don't all agree with everything that's in everything. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Councillor Morgan.
My last question is the AP that we're talking about here. In the fees and charges, where we're at in terms of being break even and not being subsidised?
Who would like to answer that? It varies between activity, and as part of the LTP,
I understand that. I understand that.
You will have an opportunity to relook at the component that is recovered, and some of them might be 80% cost recovery, 20% rates, and they vary. And I think the previous council indicated they wanted to move towards 100, more closer to 100% cost recovery.
So,
just to reinforce what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, so that's all revenue and financing policy decisions, and they're certainly that's very much up for conversations as part of the long-term plan. So we'll start that conversation in a workshop on the 8th of April.
Okay. So we're clear though that this budget, we know what the level is, whether it's 80-20 or 30-70. We understand where we're at for this year, and we're going to get reported on looking forward. These services we provide that are paid fully or partly, and then there's a whole lot of services as discussed that are funded internally by the ratepayers, etc. In terms of the overall mix, but I'm not clear on.
And bearing in mind this is a budget, and the best example I can provide of how budgets work is that 2 years ago or 3 years ago we had a very large deficit in building consenting, because we set the fees and charges based on an estimate of how many consents we will receive. And for a range of reasons, those consents dropped dramatically. And the council was left with it was a very large figure anyway, 900,000 deficit in the building consent fees and charges. So these fees are built off the back of estimates of activity. Resource consenting will be in a very similar space. We have to estimate how much over the next 12 months resource consents will be applied for. Mix of consents is pretty, I wouldn't say rough and ready is not the right word, but it is just that. It's an estimate of activity. And if the economy slows down dramatically, you can anticipate that some of these fees and charge budgets will not necessarily cover the total cost of the service.
Which is the point I picked up with the building consent max, is it? The workload has been double what it currently is this year, so you wouldn't expect to see any blowout in costs. But it suggests we're not adaptable enough. When the workload comes up, the costs increase, and we're not passing them on.
Again, we have processes to go through to set fees and charges, and one of the challenges is working a year in advance and setting a fee and charge, and things can change next month.
Well,
and our ability
looking at the building consent process that's reported here today, it was pretty consecutive for the last 4 years. It's dipped this year.
Yeah.
So that's a management issue.
It is. It's just an economic activity issue, and unfortunately, I don't believe we have the ability to change fees and charges.
Well, we need to
around building consenting as simply as just do that. It would be nice to be able to. Oh gosh, things are dropping. We'll double the fees, but clearly that has its fairly significant implications.
With the chair, just to note that we'll through the long-term plan presentations at activity level, we'll be showing you some track record information on costs and revenues and things like that. So you'll get a bit of an insight to every activity, not just at the group of activity level, and how we've tracked over a few years.
Thank you.
Thank you to the Mayor. Just a problem in my head through the last conversation with Councillor Greening. There is an interplay between the general rates position and the service charges fees that we're discussing now. But how did you arrive at the relationship with the total revenue without summing the total revenue from these service and charges? That I can't see how we managed to do that without summing these increases up and coming to a net position. We've got one document which is relying on this income to set the general rates, and yet we do not have a total position for these new charges. How did we do that?
Are you asking the question why we've got them in two separate documents and two separate decisions?
No.
Even though that.
No, I'm asking how we managed to interrelate them without understanding the totality of one of them. We don't have a total position for these new charges, and yet the general rates is dependent on the number.
But so Matt, so there must be a budget figure for the total revenue collected, and I think Matt said he didn't have it to hand, but there absolutely is one, because you're right, without knowing both of those figures, we couldn't have arrived at either.
That's correct. The way the model works is that we put a fees and charges figure in there along with the direct costs, if you like, the expenditure. We have the direct revenue, if you like, as well. We have things like interest and funded depreciation, if that's appropriate for that particular area. Admittedly, generally fees and charges don't really have a big component of long-term infrastructure type assets. But yeah, so the revenue is known. The balancing position is general rate or the targeted rate, depending on what the activity is. So we do definitely know both of them. Then we look at both those fees and charges and the rates and make sure that's in alignment with our overarching revenue and financing policy that tells us that it should be 20% rates funded and 80% fees and charges, or whatever it might be for the particular activities we've got. Resource consents is 50-50, for example. So we have to know both of those.
And so because we do know both of those, do we not know the percentage of lift coming from this source of revenue? I mean, it's a lump sum, so it's a lump contribution to our revenues. Surely we know the percentage of lift.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we do. Well, we do and we don't. Like, I just need to look at it. I don't know it off the top of my head. It's different for different activities. It just depends.
In answer to Councillor Greening's question, Matt undertook to come back with the figure, which all we're trying to highlight is not an average, it is a total increase. And there's various graphs in the various documents we get where you get the breakdown of our total revenue, and there's a piece that's rates, and then there's a 12.5% fees and charges aggregated, and then there's other revenue. So there is that circular graph. What Councillor Greening asked for, which is not unreasonable, is just what is the dollar figure that equates to that 12.5%. So, and you're asking the same question, which, yeah. All right. Anything, but Councillor Greening.
Just a technical matter. I forgot to ask for a division, please. Thank you.
Righto. All right. Thank you, Councillor Greening. So I will look to unless the mover wants to write a reply, I will look to put the resolution via division.
Councillor Kinnenmont.
First and four.
Councillor Mayling.
For.
Deputy Mayor Maru.
For.
Councillor McNamara.
For.
Councillor Morgan.
For.
Councillor Neubauer.
For.
Councillor Walker. Councillor Woods.
For.
Councillor Butler.
For.
Councillor Ellis.
For.
Councillor Fernyhough.
For.
Councillor Greening.
Against.
Councillor Gully.
For.
Councillor Hume.
For.
Mayor King.
For.
Carried 14-1.
Okay, thank you. So that draws us to the conclusion of the meeting. Again, as I guess highlighted speaking to the previous resolution, now we get the community feedback, several decision points beyond this on both the fees and charges and annual plan. And as I think has been reiterated a number of times in answers to questions today, as we work through the start of the 10-year plan process, a lot of these key underpinning issues like the revenue and financing policy, the split between general rate funding or rate funding and direct cost recovery will all be things that we can set policies about that will then be reflected in the next round of schedules of fees and charges. So thanks for everyone's contribution. I'd just like to reiterate those who pre-circulated either suggestions around amendments and or previous information and asked questions that were able to be reflected in the documents rather than trying to amend them at the meeting. That certainly makes life a lot easier. And I will close with karakia. Kia te kōrero, kia wātia, kia mama te manawa o te tangata. Kia uki te ara mō tātou e ora nei, ki rongo, ki runga, ki tina hui e, tai ki e. Thank you, everybody.